Okay, in this video, I will be showing you how to make the centers of a 4x4. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go watch that video. So I'm going to be using a very common terminology throughout this video. When I say a bar means just any two centers next to each other. So like this is the bar, and this is a bar, this is a bar. These are all bars. Okay, so let's make the first center. So we're going to be making the white center first. Now, the first step, what you want to do is you want to make a white bar. Now, you might have a white bar already, but if you don't, this part is pretty intuitive. There's like no explanation. Basically, you kind of line up two pieces and then just join together. I can guarantee you if you do random moves, you'll end up with a white bar eventually. Once you have your white bar, you want to hold that on the top. So now we want to solve the other white bar. So we have a white centerpiece here, and ideally we want to find another white centerpiece along these kind of four sides. So here's one. Now, how do we pair these up? So you can notice this is on the bottom right, and this is on the top right. So if we move these together, we have bottom right and top right. These will just link together. Now, if they weren't already like this, and say this was like this, these are both on the bottom right, then what you can do is you can just line it up. So once you join them together, you'll make a bar. So if it was like this, for example, you can just play around with this, and you got that. So now, once you have two white bars, then you just join them together. So hold them so it's like this, line it up, and then just put them together. That's your first white center. If instead you have a white center on the top, so you have white center here, but in this case we have a center on the top, then you can just simply bring it down, just as long as you're not pushing the other white center. So if it was like this, then you wouldn't want to do this because that will be pushing it to the bottom when you don't want that. So what you can do is you can just move it out of the way, you can move it down, and then you can just solve this. So if they're like together like this, you can just separate them, and then you can treat it like this. And you can kind of follow the same logic for if there's a white center on the bottom. So basically you just move it up with a kind of inner move. Now, if it was like this, you wouldn't want to move it up like this because that's going to break this bar. So instead, we want to move it, so we just move the center here and we can move it up like that. Once you got your white center on the top, now you want to flip your cube over so it's on the bottom. Now we're going to be making the yellow center. So just like the white center, we want to be making bars. Okay, so we have this one, we can pair it up with, say, this one. So how we do that, this is on the top right, so we want the other piece to be on the bottom right. So we can just do some single layer turns, don't do double layer, just do single layer, until this is in the bottom right. So now we can pair them up together like that. But to put it in the top, this is the side where yellow needs to be, we can't just go like this because then that would be destroying our white center. But what we can do is we can move it up and then do an up to move. So just like move this out of the way so we can put the side back down. So now we have this like yellow, and then we have a yellow here. So we want this to be on the top right. So this needs to be on the top right, which is here. So we can kind of just move it like that. So we have a second bar made, but again, we can't just move this up because it will be breaking up our white center. But we can't do up to because everything is solved and we can't replace it with an unsolved one. So what we do is we line it up. So once we lift this up, we're pushing it out of the way. So once we do up to, once we put this down, we can solve that yellow center. If you have 3 on the top and 1 on the bottom, there is kind of a nice way to do it. So let's say it's like this. So on the right side, you only want one of the solved. So as I turn this, only one of the centers is solved. So this is okay. One of the solved here is okay, but 2 here is not good. So this is one solved. So this is gonna end in the. Once we bring this down, this is gonna end in the top right. So we need to move this to the top left, because then once we move this down, we can pair it up like that. So now we have a bar, and then we can just bring this back up. Okay, once you have the yellow center, now you want to turn it on the sideways. So now we're going to be making the other centers. Let's start with blue. So like everything else, you want to be making a blue bar. So let's say we'll do this one and this one. So we can just kind of line it up, and then we can just pair it together like that. And the other one got paired up for us. That was lucky, but I'll show maybe something that's not as lucky. So once you put the bar like this, you don't leave it like this, because we can't do any moves along here. So just leave it vertically. So we're free to do any move here. So now this is the bottom right. So we want something in the bottom left. So because that will pair it up. So we can take this blue and we can pair it up here, and then we can just go like that. And now it's paired up. So now we want to join the 2 bars together. So we can just like line it up. Then we can do a double move, and that pairs it up. So now we go on to, wait, which center do we do? Now the reason why I'm saying this is because of color schemes. On 4x4, you actually can put your centers wherever you like, technically. But for the 3x3 stage, if you mess up the centers, then it's not going to be solvable. So you have to know the color scheme of your cube. So the way I know is, if white's on the top and blue's here, then I know red will be here. So this will be red. So just remember, we're going to go white, then we go blue, then here we go red. If you mess up the color scheme, it's going to be unsolvable. So let's just hold the blue center on the bottom to make this easier. So now we can pair up stuff here. So let's say we have, this is on the bottom right. So if we want to pair it up with something, let's say here, this has to be the bottom left. So we can use this center, we can put on the bottom left, and we can move this down. But as you might see, we're breaking this up. So what we can do is we can maybe break it up, but then move it out of the way, and then we can put the side back. So now we need to put this on this side. So what we can do is we can do the same thing as what we do on the yellow center. We can bring it down, then we can do a double move, then we can bring it back up. And then this case, we have them on the same side, but that's okay. We can just put one of them to this side. So let's say we put this one, we can bring it up. Then we can just move it out of the way. So once we put this back down, it's not come back down here. Now we can pair these up. So I want a top right here, so we can bring this on the top right like that. Then we can pair it up. But we're messing up the blue center, so we can just pair it up, and then we can, it really actually doesn't matter which side, just don't make it horizontal, so just make it vertical. Then we just fix that blue center like that. Now we can put the red center on here. So again, we're not doing this because that breaks it, and if we do up 2, if we do a double move, that's just not going to work. So what we do is we line it up, and we do this. Then we do up 2, and then that. And then that solves our red center. So now we're on to our last 2 centers. So actually, what goes here? If you know your opposite colors well, it should be green, because on the opposite of this is blue. So this should be green. So we've got this, and we got a bar. So we want to keep this bar. So we'll just put it off to the left. We'll only do this move. So how do we pair these up? So if you've got a case like this where you've got a bar and you've got kind of like a checkerboard pattern, then just put one of the pieces in this kind of area. So that's by lifting this side up, then putting a piece that in these two spots and then putting it back down. Now we have a 3 and a 3. So actually, if you get this case from the start, then what you can do is realize that if you take this is the bottom right. So once we bring this up to the bottom right, it's going to get paired up with this, which is the bottom left. So we want this green to be the bottom left. So we can just move that there. So now what we can do is we can lift it up. So that will get paired up. So now we want to move it. So it's vertical, and then we just want to put it back down. And now our centers are solved. But if we had bars in the first place, then we had this green bar here. So we can just move this green bar. Then we can do up to and then put it back. So that's a green center. And another case you can get, which is a little bit weird, is this one where you have both checkers. This one's also pretty easy to fix. So we have a top right here. So when we put this up here, it's going to get paired up with anything here. So top right, top left, greens here. We can actually put anything here. So now we can make a bar. Then we can move it in. Then we put it back down. So now we have a 3 case that I showed you how to solve earlier. Okay, those are centers complete. The next step is to pair the edges. So if you want to see it, click there, although it may not be out yet at the time of uploading this video. So if you want to see it, then make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell so you know when it's here. If you have any questions about doing these centers, just leave them in the comments below, and see you next time.